Welcome, Wapham crew, guys, gals, ghouls, friends, fiends, foes, whoever may be listening beyond the Omniverse tonight. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. It is Sunday, May 26th, Monday, May 27th, for those of you across the pond and beyond. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, and thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. I'm your host, TessaTNT, and we are broadcasting live from the Mile High Clubhouse tonight. If you're listening live right now, you may be listening to us on Facebook under We Are Paradox Media, YouTube under We Are Paradox Media, as well as Twitch. If you like to watch, make sure you go to Facebook or YouTube or Twitch. And if you want to listen in your free time, whether you're working it, or working out, listen to us on any venue that you like to listen to your podcasts on. Or even on iHeartRadio. So it's pretty epic. Pretty cool, I must say. So yeah, tonight is story time. I'm just going to check my stuff over here. Looking good. Not too shabby. So yeah, we're about to finish this book. It's Sue Grafton's Case for Killer. It's been pretty good so far. And then after this, we get to start The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I'm super excited. Super excited about that. So let's get on with it. It was 20 after 11 when I pushed my way through the crowd at Neptune's palace. The illusion of the ocean depth was profound that night. Watery blue lights shaded down to black. A pattern of light played across the dance floor like the shimmer at the bottom of a pool. I raised my gaze to the ceiling, where a storm at sea was being projected. Lightning forked in the faux sky, and an unseen wind whipped across the ocean's surface. I could hear the cracking of the ship's timbers as the rain lashed the mast. The screams of drowning men set against a rock and roll backdrop. Dancers swayed back and forth, their arms undulating in the smoke-heavy air. The music was so loud, it was almost like no sound. Like silence, in the same way that black is every color intensified into nothing. I found a perch at the bar and bought myself a beer while I scanned the crowd. The boys wore mascara and black lipstick, while the girls sported punk haircuts and elaborate tattoos. I kept my gaze carefully averted. The music stopped abruptly, and the dance floor began to clear. I caught a glimpse of a familiar blonde head I could have sworn was Berlin's. She disappeared from view. I eased off the bar stool and circled to the right, peering over the rolling mob to the point where I thought I'd seen her. There was nowhere in sight, but I didn't think I was mistaken. I lingered near a massive saltwater tank where a flat eel with vicious teeth was devouring a hapless fish. Suddenly I spotted her, sitting at the table with a beefy guy in a tank top, fatigue pants, and heavy army boots. His head had been shaved bald, but his shoulders and forearms were still thick with fur. Any body part not covered with hair seemed to be adorned with some kind of tattoo, dragons and snakes. I could see the ridges in his skull and rolls of flesh along his neck. I've often thought of fatbacks as the portion of the human body that aliens would most prefer to eat. Berlin sat in profile. She'd shrugged off her leather jacket, which was now hanging over the back of her chair, anchored by her shoulder bag. She was wearing the earrings, 2 diamond-encrusted hoops dangling down on either side. Her skirt was green satin and, like her black one, short and tight. While she talked, she made frequent reference to the earrings, touching first one and then the other, reassuring herself that both were still in place. She seemed self-conscious, perhaps, unaccustomed to wearing such ornate jewelry. The light from the candle in the middle of her table caught the myriad facets of the stones. Booming music broke the air, and then the two got up to dance again. Berlin wore the same high, spiky heels, perhaps in hopes of lending grace to ankles that were otherwise as shapeless as porch posts. She had a butt on her like a loaded backpack tied around her waist. The table next to theirs had emptied, and I slid onto the chair next to hers. Trini suddenly appeared to my right. I'd have avoided the contact, but I knew she'd already spotted me. "Hi, Trini. How are you? I didn't know you came here." Everybody comes here. This is hot. She was glancing around as she spoke, snapping her fingers while she did some kind of chin thrust in time to the music. I wondered if this was her meeting behavior. You here by yourself? Nuh-uh. I came with Burl. She has a boyfriend she meets here because Daddy didn't like him. Really? Merlin's here too? Where'd she go? Right out on the dance floor. She was sitting right here. She pointed in the general direction of the dance floor, and I peered dutifully. Merlin was doing a bump and grind number with a beefy boyfriend. I could see his shaved head towering above the other heads bobbing on the dance floor. That's the guy your dad didn't like? I can't imagine. Trini shrugged. It's his hair, I think. Daddy's kind of a conservative. He doesn't think guys should shave their heads. Yeah, but what difference could that make when he's got so much hair everywhere else, I said. Trini made a face. I don't like guys with hairy backs. Nice earrings Berlin's wearing. Where'd she get them? I wouldn't mind a pair of those myself. They're just rhinestones. Rhinestones? That's cool. They look like real diamonds from here, don't you think? Oh, right. Like she's really going to wear diamonds. Well, maybe she got them at one of those stores that sells look-alike jewels. You know, emeralds and rubies and stuff like that. I look at that stuff and I can't tell the difference. Yeah, maybe. I looked up. A fellow doing chin thrust and a lot of finger-popping was standing near Trini's chair. She got up and started bumping and grinding on the spot. I waved at the air, trying to watch the dance floor around their flailing arms. Do you mind? The two of them began to bebop in the direction of the dance floor. I found Berlin again with her bow. I kept my eyes pinned on their heads bobbing on the dance floor. I leaned over as if to tie my shoe and slid my hand down into my purse, or her purse. I felt her wallet, cosmetic bag, hairbrush. I sat up again and then simply extracted the handbag from the back of the chair, where she'd hung it, leaving mine in its place. I hefted the strap across one shoulder and moved off to the ladies' ring. There were 5 or 6 women at the basins, makeup paraphernalia scattered across the shelving provided. All were engaged in a frenzy of hair ratting, blusher brushing, and lip pencils, not even looking up as I went into a stall and slid the bolt across. I hung the bag over a hook that had been thoughtfully provided by the management and began the search in earnest. Berlin's wallet was not that educational. Driver's license, a couple of credit cards, a few folded credit card receipts shoved down among the currency. Her checkbook showed a series of deposits at weekly intervals, which I assumed represented paychecks from Kepler Plumbing. Chick was seriously underpaid. Scanning back over the last several months, I spotted an occasional deposit of $2,500, usually followed by checks made out to the holiday travel. That was interesting. I found the small velvet jeweler's box in which the earrings were probably kept. I tried the interior zippered compartment, sorted through old grocery lists, thrifty drugstore receipts, and deposit slips. I pulled out passbooks for 2 different savings accounts. The first had been opened with a $9,000 deposit about a month after Lorna's death. I could see intermittent withdrawals of $2,500, bringing the current balance down to $1,500. The second account held another $6,000. There was probably a third account somewhere else. Berlin had tucked the carbons of her deposit with withdrawal slips in the back of one passbook. Information she didn't dare leave at home. If Janice had discovered her cache of hidden funds, tricky questions would arise. I lifted a carbon slip from each passbook. Someone knocked on my stall. Are you dead in there? Just a minute, I called. I depressed the toilet handle, letting the toilet flush noisily, while I shoved everything back in the handbag. I emerged from the stall with the bag over my shoulder. A black girl with a 70s afro moved into the stall I'd vacated. I found an empty basin and gave my hands a vigorous scrub, feeling like they needed it. I left the restroom and ran to the table in haste, just as the dance music came to a blasting finale. There was tumultuous applause from the dance floor, complete with piercing whistles and foot stompings. I slid into my chair, snagging my bag from Berlin's chair and slipping hers into place. Berlin was approaching, the big guy riding in her wake, her chair tilted perilously. I grabbed for it, but not quickly enough to prevent her bag and leather jacket from tumbling onto the floor in a heap. Chapter 19. I'd caught a glimpse of Berlin's mouth, which opened with annoyance when she realized that the chair had toppled over. She was looking sweaty and crossed, her perpetual state, I suspected. I turned my back abruptly so I was facing the bar. I drank my beer, heart thumping. I heard her exclamation of surprise. "Look at this, gad!" She dragged the profanity out into 3 musical notes as she scooped up her belongings, apparently paused to check the contents of her purse. "Somebody's been in here." "In your bag?" the guy said. "Yes, Gary, in my bag," she said, voice heavy with sarcasm. "Anything missing?" He seemed concerned, but not freaked out. Maybe he was used to her tone of voice. She said, "Hey." I could tell she was speaking in my direction. She poked me in the shoulder. "I'm talking to you." I turned, feigning innocence. "Excuse me?" "Oh my God, what the hell are you doing here?" "Well, hi, Berlin. I thought it might be you," I said. "I saw Trini a minute ago, and she said you were around someplace. What's the problem?" She gave the bag a shake, as if it were a naughty pup. "Don't give me that bullshit. Have I been in here?" I put a hand on my chest and looked around with puzzlement. "I've been in the ladies' room. I just sat down," I said. "Haha, very funny." I looked up at the guy with her. "Is she on drugs?" He rolled his eyes. "Come on now, Burl. Settle down, okay? It wasn't bothering you. Give the chick a break." "Shut up!" Her blonde hair looked nearly white in the flickering light above. Her eyes were darkly lined, mascara separating her lashes into tiny rows of spikes. She fixed me with a look of singular intensity, swelling the way a cat does when it senses a threat. I let my gaze roam across her face, resting on the diamond-hooped earrings which fairly quivered at her ears. I kept my smile pleasant. "Do you have something to hide, perchance?" She leaned forward aggressively, and for a moment I thought she might snatch me up from the front of my turtleneck. She put her face so close to mine that I could smell her beery breath, which was not that big a treat. "What did you say?" I spoke clearly, enunciating. "I said, your earrings are nice. I wonder where you got them." Her face went blank. "I don't have to talk to you." I shot a look at the guy just to see how he was taking this. He didn't seem at all interested. Already I found that I liked him better than her. "How about this? You want to tell me how you acquired so much money in your savings accounts?" The guy looked from me to her and back, apparently confused. "You talking to me or her?" "Actually to her. I'm a private investigator working on a job," I said. "Don't think you want to get in the middle of this, Gary. Right now, we're fine. But it's going to get ugly here in a minute." He held up his hands. "Hey, you two have a beef. You can settle it without me. See you around, bro. I'm out of here." I said bye-bye to him and then Burl. "My car's outside. Do you want to talk?" I sat in my car. The parking lot outside of Neptune's palace seemed to have as much going on as in the interior. 2 beat cops were having a solemn chat with a kid who seemed to have trouble standing upright. 1 aisle ahead of us, and 2 cars over, a young girl was clinging to someone's finger while she emptied the contents of her stomach. The temperature was dropping, and the sky above us seemed clear as glass. Berlin wasn't looking at me. "You want to start with the earrings?" "No." Sullen, uncooperative. "You want to start with the money you stole from Lorna?" "You don't have to take that attitude," she said. "I didn't exactly steal." "I'm listening." She seemed to squirm, considering how much to share with me. "I'm telling you this in the strictest confidence, okay?" she said. I held a hand out, scout style. I love confidences, and the stricter the better. I'd probably rat her out, but she didn't have to know that. She weaseled around some more, her mouth working while she decided how to put it. Lorna called and told Mom she was going out of town. Mom didn't mention it to me till later, right before she went to work. I was upset because I had to talk to Lorna about this cruise to Mazatlan. I'd been there. She said she might be able to help me out, so I went over there. Her car was there, but her lights were out, and she didn't answer my knock. I figured she was out somewhere. I went back first thing in the morning, hoping I could catch her before she left. What time was this? Maybe 9:30? I was supposed to take the money to the travel agent by noon, or I'd lose my deposit. I'd already given them $1,000, and I had to have the balance, or I'd forfeit everything I'd paid. That was for the cruise that you took last fall? Uh-huh. What made you think Lorna had money? Lorna always had money. Everybody knew what she did. Sometimes she was generous, and sometimes not. It depended on her mood. Besides, she told me she'd help. She just about promised. I started to quiz her on the subject, but decided it would be better to let that pass for now. Go on. Well, I knocked on the door, but she never answered. I saw her car was still there, and I thought maybe she was in the shower or something. So I opened the door and peeked in. She was on the floor. I just stood there and stared. I was so shocked I couldn't even think. Was the door locked or unlocked the night before? I don't know. I didn't try. I didn't even think of it. Anyway, I touched her arm, and she was really cold. I knew she was dead. I could tell just by looking. Her eyes were wide open, and she was staring. It was really gross. What next? I just felt awful. It was horrible. I sat down and started crying. She blinked, staring through the windshield, which was a little dusty for my taste. I figured she was trying to conjure up a quick tear to impress me with the sincerity of her anguish. You didn't call the police? I asked. Well, no. Why not? I'm just curious about your frame of mind. I don't know, she said grudgingly. I was afraid they'd think that I did it. Why would they think that? I couldn't even prove where I was earlier because I was at home by myself. Mom was there, but she was sleeping, and Trini still had a job back then. I mean, what if I was arrested? Mom and Daddy would have died. I understand. You wanted to protect them, I said blandly. I tried to think what to do. I was really screwed, you know. I'd just been praying for money, and now it was too late. And poor Lorna, I felt so sorry for her. I kept thinking about all the things she wouldn't get to do, like get married or have a baby. She'd never get to travel to Europe. So you did what? I said, cutting in on her recital. Her voice was getting quavery. She took up a ratty tissue and dabbed her nose. Well, I knew where she kept her bank book, so I borrowed her driver's license and this passbook. I was so confused and upset I didn't know what to do. I can imagine. Then what? I got in my car and drove down to the valley and took some money out of her savings. How much? I don't remember. Quite a bit, I guess. You closed the account, didn't you? What else was I supposed to do, she said. I figured once they found out she was dead, they'd freeze all her accounts like they did with my grandma. And then, what good would it do? She promised that she'd help. I mean, it wasn't like she turned me down or anything like that. She wanted me to have it. What about her signature? How'd you manage that? We write alike anyway, because I taught her myself before she went to kindergarten. She'd always imitated my writing, so it wasn't that hard to imitate hers. Didn't they ask for identification? Sure, but we look enough alike. My face is fuller, but that's about the only difference. You know, hair color, but everybody changes that. Later when the news hit the paper, nobody seemed to put it together. I don't even think her picture ran in the paper down there. What about the bank? Wasn't there a closing statement sent out? Sure, but all the mail comes to me at home. Everything from them I pulled out and threw away quick. Well, almost everything, I said. Then what? That's all. What about the earrings? Oh, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. She made a face, meant to signify regret and other profound emotional responses. I've been thinking that I should put the rest of it back. Back where? I still have some of her clothes and stuff. I thought I could stick the jewelry in an old purse. Like that was where she kept it, in the pocket of her winter coat or something, and then, discover it and act all amazed. That's certainly a plan, I said. I was missing something, but I couldn't figure out what. Can we get back to the money for just a minute here? After you drove back from Simi, you still had Lorna's driver's license along with the cash? I'm trying to understand what you did next, just so I can get a picture. I don't understand. What do you mean? Well, her driver's license was listed on the police report, so you must have put it back. Oh, sure, I put the license right back where it was. Yeah, that's right. Uh-huh. Like in her wallet or something? Right, then I realized I better make it look like she'd closed the account herself, like she took some money out before she left town. I'm with you so far, I said with caution. Well, everybody thought she was already gone, so all I had to do was create the impression that she was alive all day Friday. Wait a minute, I thought this was Saturday. This all happened Friday? It had to be Friday. The bank's not even open on Saturday. And neither is the travel agent. My mouth did not actually drop open, but it felt as though it did. I turned to stare at her fully, but Berlin didn't seem to notice. She was caught up in her narrative and probably wasn't tuned to my look of astonishment. She was really the most amazing mix of cunning and stupidity, and way too old to be so unaware. I went on home. I was really upset, so I told Mom I had the cramps and went to bed. Saturday afternoon, I went back to her place and brought the mail in with the morning newspaper. I couldn't see any harm. I mean, dead is dead, so what difference did it make? What did you do with the bank book? I kept it. I didn't want anybody to know the money was gone. So you waited a month and opened a couple savings accounts? I was monitoring myself, trying to keep from using what an English teacher would probably refer to as a screaming accusative verb tense. Verlaine must have picked up on it to some extent because she nodded, trying to look humble and repentant. Whatever she told herself in the 10 months since Lorna died, I suspect it sounded different now that she was explaining it to me. Weren't you worried about your fingerprints showing up at her place? I said. Not really. I wiped off everything I touched so my prints wouldn't show, but even if I slipped up, I figured I had the right to be. I'm her sister. Been there lots of times. Anyway, how can they prove when the fingerprint was made? I'm surprised you didn't buy yourself some new clothes or a car. That wouldn't be right. I didn't ask her for that stuff. I didn't ask her for the jewelry either, I said tartly. I figured Lorna wouldn't mind. I mean, why would she care? I was so heartbroken when I found her. She ceased making eye contact and her expression took on a troubled cast. Anyway, why would she begrudge me when there wasn't anything she could do by then? You do know you broke the law. I did? Actually, you broke quite a few laws, I said pleasantly. I could feel my temper beginning to climb. It was like being on the verge of throwing up. I should have kept my mouth shut because I could feel myself losing it. Here's the point, Berlin. I mean, aside from grand theft, withholding evidence, tampering with a crime scene, obstructing justice, and God knows what other law I managed to violate, you've completely fucked up the investigation of your own sister's murder. Some asshole's out there walking around free as a bird right this minute because of you. Do you get that? What kind of fucking twit are you? That's when she finally started crying in earnest. I leaned across the car and opened the door on her side. Get out and go home, I said. Better yet, go to Frankie's and tell your mother what you did before it shows up in my report. Hello, Sister Sandra. She turned to me, nose red, mascara streaking down her cheeks, nearly breathless from my betrayal. I told you in strictest confidence. You said you wouldn't tell. I didn't actually say that, but if I did, I lied. I'm really a wretched person. I'm sorry you didn't understand that. Now get out of my car. She got out and slammed the door, her grief having turned to fury in 10 seconds flat. But she put her face close to the window and yelled, "Bitch!" I started the car and backed out. Still mad, I nearly ran her down in the process. And started cruising the neighborhood, hoping to run into Cheney Phillips somewhere. Maybe he was on call, doing vice rounds like a doctor. Mostly, I was looking for a way to keep occupied while I sorted through the implications of what Berlin had said. No wonder JD was nervous, doing everything he could to fix the day and time of his departure with Leda. If Lorna was murdered Friday night or Saturday, they were in the clear. Run it back a day and everything was up for grabs again. I cut down a long cabana and headed toward Cece's. Maybe Cheney was hanging out there. It was not quite midnight. The wind had picked up, blowing through the trees, blowing as if there were a storm in progress. Though no rain fell, the surf was being churned up, a wild spray coming off the waves as they boomed against the shore. From a side street to my left, I could hear a car alarm crying, and the sound seemed to carry like the howling of a wolf. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught the flight of a dried palm frond that hurled down from a tree, skittered across the road in front of me. Sorry, there was a video call? Alright. There were very few cars in the parking lot at the Caliente Cafe. The place was quiet for a Friday night, with just a smattering of patrons and no sign of Cheney. Before I left, I used the payphone and tried to reach Cheney at home. He was either out or not answering, and I hung up without leaving a message on his answering machine. I wasn't really sure what bothered me more, the story Berlin had told me, or Danielle's revelation about Lorna and Clark Esselman. I took a detour through Montebello, feeling unsettled. The Esselman estate was on a narrow lane, without sidewalks or street lamps. My headlights whitewashed the road ahead. The wind was blowing, even with my car windows up. I could hear it waffle through the grass. A big limb was down, and I had to slow to avoid it, my eyes following the low wall that edged along the property. All the landscape lights were out, and the house sat in darkness, its angular black shape discernible against the clay-colored sky. There was no moon at all. An owl sailed across the road, touching down briefly in the grassy field on the other side, rising again with a small dark bundle in its grip. Some death is as silent as the flight of a bird. Some prey was unprotesting as a knot of rags. The front gates were closed, and I could see little beyond the dark shapes of the junipers along the drive. I backed up and turned around, idling my engine while I debated what to do. Later, I'd wondered what might have happened if I'd actually gone ahead and pressed the intercom button and announced myself. It probably wouldn't have made a difference, but one can never be sure. Finally, I put the car in gear and headed back to my place, where I crept into bed. Above me, the wind blew dry leaves across the domed skylight like the scratchings of tiny feet, something pricking at my conscience, while I tossed in sleep. Once in the dead of night, I could have sworn a cold finger touched the side of my face, and I woke with a start. The loft was empty, and the wind had died to a whisper. My phone rang out at noon. I'd been awake for an hour, but unwilling to stir. Having completed my transmigration into the nocturnal realms, I found the notion of getting up any time before 2 repugnant. The phone rang again. It wasn't that I needed more sleep. I simply didn't want to face daylight. On the third ring, I reached for the phone and pulled it into bed with me, tucked the receiver up between my ear and pillow. Hello? This is Cheney. I put myself on one elbow and ran a hand through my hair. Well, hey, I tried calling you last night, but I guess you were out. No, I was here, he said. My girlfriend was over, and we turned the phone off at 10. What's going on with you? Oh man, we gotta talk. All kinds of shit is coming down on this investigation. You ain't heard the half of it. I just got a call from a buddy in the sheriff's department. Clark Esselman died this morning in a freak accident. He what? You're never gonna believe this. The guy was electrocuted in his swimming pool. Dove in to swim some laps and got fried, I guess. The gardener was killed too. The fellow jumped in to try to save him and died the same way he did. Esselman's daughter said she heard a scream, but by the time she got out there, they were both dead. Luckily, she figured out what was going on and flipped the circuit breaker. That's really weird, I said. Why didn't the breaker cut out to begin with? Isn't that what it's for? Don't ask me. They've got an electrician out now, checking the wiring, so we'll see what he comes up with. Anyway, Hawthorne's at the house with the crime scene boys, and I'm on my way over. Want me to swing by and pick you up? Give me 6 minutes. I'll be waiting out front. See you. When Cheney and I reached the entrance to Clark Esselman's estate, he pressed the button and announced our arrival to a hollow-sounding someone on the other end. Just a minute and I'll check, the fellow said and clicked off. During the drive, I told Cheney as much as I could about Esselman's confrontation with Stubby Stockton at the meeting the night before. I also told him about the conversation with Berlin and Daniel's claim about Esselman's relationship with Lorna. You've been busy, he remarked. Not busy enough. I came over here last night thinking I should talk to him. I don't have any idea what I intended to say, but as it turns out, the place was dark, and I didn't think I should rouse the household to quiz him about his rumored kinkiness. Well, it's too late now. Yeah, isn't it? I said. The gate swung open and we started up the winding driveway, which was bordered with vehicles, 2 unmarked cars, the electrician's truck, and a county car that probably belonged to the coroner. Cheney parked the Mazda behind the last car in line, and we approached on foot. The fire department rescue vehicle and an orange and white ambulance were parked out front along with a black and white patrol unit from the county sheriff's department. A uniformed sheriff's deputy left his post near the front door and moved to intercept us. Cheney flashed his badge, confirming his identity, and the two spoke together briefly before the deputy waved us through. "How come you're allowed in?" I murmured as we crossed the porch. Told Hawthorne there might be a peripheral connection to a case we've been working. "He's got no problem with it as long as we don't interfere," Cheney said. He turned and pointed a finger at my face. "You make any trouble, and I'll wring your neck." "Why would I make trouble? I'm as curious as you are." At the front door we paused, stepping aside for the two paramedics from the fire department who were packing up and departing, presumably no longer needed. We moved into the house and through the big country kitchen. The interior was quiet. No audible voices, no droning of the vacuum, no ringing telephones. I didn't see Serena or any of the household staff. The French doors stood open, and the patio, like a movie set, seemed crowded with people whose status and function were not immediately clear. Host loitered at the respectful distance from the pool, but the relevant members of the team were hard at work. I recognized the photographer, the coroner, and his assistant. Two plainclothes detectives were taking measurements for a sketch. Now that we'd been admitted, no one seemed to question our right to be present. From what we could ascertain, it hadn't yet been established that a crime had been committed, but the scene was being treated with meticulous attention because of the Esselman's high standing in the community. Both Esselman's body and that of the gardener had been removed from the water. They lay side by side, covered discreetly with tarps. Two sets of feet were visible, one bare and one shod in work boots. The bottoms of the bare feet were marked by an irregular pattern of burns. The flesh blackened in places. There was no sign of the dog, and I assumed he'd been locked up somewhere. The second set of paramedics stood together quietly, probably waiting for the okay from the coroner to transport the bodies to the morgue. It was clear they had no further business to conduct. Cheney left me to my own devices. He was only marginally more entitled to be there than I was, but he felt free to circulate, while I thought it was smarter to keep a low profile. I turned and looked off toward the adjacent properties. By day, the rolling lawns were patchy, the grasses interseeded with a mix of fesque and Bermuda, the latter currently dormant and forming stretches of tatty brown. The flowering shrubs that surrounded the patio formed a waist-high wall of color. I could see exactly where the gardener had been working that morning because the hedge hadn't been trimmed or clipped as crisply across one section and shaggy after that. His electric clippers lay on the concrete where he must have dropped them before he jumped into the water. The rat pool looked serene, its dark surface reflecting a portion of the steeply pitched roof. Perhaps it was an artifact of my overactive imagination, but I could have sworn the faint scent of cooked flesh still lingered in the morning air. I wandered across the patio toward the breezeway that connected the four garages to the house, and then I ambled back. I didn't see how Esselman's death could be an accident, but neither did I understand how it could be connected to Lena's death. It was possible he'd killed her, but it didn't seem likely. If he felt remorse for their relationship, or if he feared exposure, he might have elected to commit suicide, but what a bizarre way to go about it. For all he knew, Serena might have been the one who happened on the scene, and she'd have died along with him. I noticed activity at the side of the house closest to the pool. The electrician talking with two detectives. He gestured his explanation and could see all of them looking from the electrical panel to the pool. The electrician moved over to the side of the pool near the far end. He hunkered still talking while one of the detectives peered down into the water, squinting. He got down on his hands and knees and leaned closer. He asked the electrician a question and then took off his sport coat and rolled up his sleeve, reaching into the depths. The photographer was summoned, and the detective began to detail a new set of instructions. She reloaded her camera and changed the lens. The other detective crossed to the coroner's assistant, and they conferred. The coroner had stepped back, and the two paramedics began to prepare the bodies for removal to the ambulance. From where I was standing, I could see the news ripple across the assembled personnel. Whatever the information, it spread from twosome to twosome as the group rearranged itself. The detective moved off, and I eased my way toward the coroner's assistant, knowing if I were patient, the news train would eventually reach my little station. The electrician had left his toolbox on the patio table, and he came over to pick it up. In the meantime, the deputy was talking to the fingerprint tech, who hadn't had much work to do so far. The three of them began to chat, looking back toward the pool. I overheard the electrician use the word defy. When my thoughts jumped to the transcript I'd been discussing with Hector. I laid a hand on his arm, and he glanced back at me. "Excuse me, I don't mean to, but what did you say?" I said there's a problem with the GFI. Wires come loose, which is why the circuit breaker didn't trip like it should have. One of the pole lights is busted out, and that's what sent current through the water. Thought the term was GFCI, ground fault circuit interrupter? Same thing. I use both. GFI is easier, and everybody knows what you mean. The electrician was a clean-cut kid in his 20s. One of that army of experts who make the civilized world run a little more smoothly. "Damnedest thing I ever saw," he remarked to the deputy. "Break an underwater flood like that, you'd have to take a stick and poke it out from on top. The detective's going to find out when the pool was last serviced, but somebody really blew it. We're talking a big lawsuit, and I mean big." The fingerprint technician said, "Think the gardener could have done it?" "Doing what? You don't punch out a pole light by accident." I told the detective that the glass was tough. It takes work. If it had been at night, with the pole lights on, somebody might have noticed. Daytime like this and all, that black tile, you can hardly see the near end, let alone the far. From the other side of the patio, the detective motioned to the electrician back, and he moved in that direction. Where I was, the deputy and the fingerprint technician had shifted the discussion to somebody who'd been electrocuted by his electric lawnmower because of his mother, trying to be helpful, stuck the 3-prong plug into a 2-pronged extension cord. Insulation on the neutral wire was defective, which caused direct contact between the cord and the metal handle of the mower. The deputy went into quite a bit of detail about the nature of the damage, comparing it to another case he'd seen where a child bit through an electric cord while standing in a puddle of water in the bathroom. I kept thinking about the tape recording, thinking about the phrase, "She goes in at the same time every day." Maybe Esselman wasn't the intended victim. Maybe Serena was meant to die instead. I looked for Cheney but couldn't seem to find him. I approached the nearest of the two detectives. "Would you have any objection if I talked to Mr. Esselman's daughter? It won't take but a minute. I'm a friend of hers," I said. "I don't want you discussing Mr. Esselman's death. That's my job. It's not about him. This is about something else." He studied me for a moment and then glanced away. "Keep it brief," he said. "Chapter 20. This is our final chapter." I'm glad there's a breeze in here. It's a bit balmy today. I went through the kitchen toward the house and the foyer. I took a right and headed up the stairs. I had no idea how the bedrooms were laid out. I moved down the hallway from room to room. At the end of the corridor, there was an intersecting T, with a sitting room on the right and a bedroom on the left. I could see Serena lying on a 4-posted bed covered with a light blanket. The room was sunny and spacious, yellow and white paper on the walls and a tiny rosette print. There were white curtains at the window, and all woodwork was done in white. Serena didn't seem to be asleep. I knocked on the door frame. She turned her head and looked at me. I didn't think she'd been crying. Her face was pale, marked by tears, the expression in her eyes more one of resignation than sorrow. "If one can make that distinction," she said. "Are they finished out there?" I shook my head. "It'll probably be a while. You want me to call anyone?" "Not really. I called Roger. He's coming over as soon as he can get away from the plant." "Did you want something?" "I need to ask you a question, if you can tolerate the intrusion." "That's all right. What is it?" "Do you use the pool on a daily basis?" "No, I never liked swimming. That was Daddy's passion. He had the lap pool about 5 years ago. Was someone else here swim? One of the maids or the cook? She thought about it briefly. Occasionally, a friend might call and ask to use the pool, but no one else, she said. Why? I heard a taped conversation under circumstances I'd prefer not to go into. Lorna was talking to a man who used the phrase, she goes in at the same time every day. I thought the reference might be to swimming, but at the time it made no sense. I was just wondering if there was a she on the premises who went in at the same time every day. She smiled lamely. Just a dog, and she only goes in when Dad does. I saw her the other night. They play fetch, and then, when he does his laps, she swims alongside him. I could feel a flicker of confusion. I thought the dog was a male. Isn't his name Max? It's Maxine. Max for short, she said. Actually, her real name's much longer because she's pedigreed. Oh, Maxine. What's she doing? I didn't see her downstairs. I thought she might be up here with you. Serena struggled into a sitting position. Oh, heavens. Thanks for reminding me. She's still at the groomer's. I took her over first thing this morning. The shop owner even came in early to accommodate the appointment. I was supposed to pick her up at 11, but it completely slipped my mind. I asked Mrs. Holloway if she'd go over there, or at least call and let them know what's happened. Poor Max, poor girl. She's going to die without Daddy. The two of them were inseparable. Mrs. Holloway's the housekeeper? I haven't seen her either, but I can call if you like. Please, maybe Roger can pick her up on his way over here. It's Montebello Pet Groomers in the lower village. The number's on the planning center in the kitchen. They don't want to put you to any trouble. It's no trouble, I said. Are you okay? Really, I'm fine. I just want some time alone, and then I'll be down. I'll probably have to talk to the detective anyway. I can't believe this is happening. It's also grotesque. Take your time, I said. I'll tell the pet groomers someone's picking Max up later. You want this closed? It might be quieter. All right, and thank you. That's all right. I'm sorry about your father. I appreciate that. I left the room, pulling the door shut behind me. I went down to the kitchen and put a call through to the grooming shop. I identified myself as a friend of Serena's, indicating that her father had died unexpectedly. The woman was extremely gracious, expressing her condolences. The shop was closing at 3, and she said that she could just as easily drop Max off on her way home. I left a note to that effect, assuming that Mrs. Holloway or Serena would spot it. By the time I returned to the patio, the bodies had been removed and the photographer had packed up and left. There was no sign of the electrician, the coroner, or his assistant. The fingerprint technician was now working over by the pool equipment. At the near end of the pool, I saw Cheney talking to the younger of the two detectives, his buddy Hawthorne. I gathered, though, he never introduced us. When he spotted me, he finished up his conversation and crossed the patio to meet me. I was wondering where you went. You're nearly done here. You want to head out? You might as well, I said. We didn't say much until we'd left the house, walking down the driveway to the spot where Cheney's car was parked. I said, so what's the current theory? It couldn't have been an accident. That's ludicrous. Cheney unlocked the door and held it open for me. Doesn't look like it on the surface, but we'll see what they come up with. He closed the door on my side, effectively cutting off communication. I leaned over and unlocked the door on his side, but I had to wait until he'd gone around and let himself in. He slid under the steering wheel. Quit being such a stickler and play the game, I said. What do you think? I think it's dumb to guess. Oh, come on, Cheney. There had to be murder. Somebody busted out the pool light and then disconnected the GFI. You don't believe it was an accident. You're the one who told Hawthorne there might be a peripheral connection between Lorna's death and Esselman's. What connection? He said perversely. That's what I'm asking you, I said. God, you're aggravating. Okay, I'll go first. Here's what I think. He rolled his eyes, smiling, and turned the key in the ignition. He put his arm across the seat and peered out of his rear window, backing out of the gate with a breathtaking carelessness. When he reached the road, he threw it into gear first and peeled out. On the way back to my place, I told him about Lita's surreptitious tape recording. I didn't have the transcript with me, but the text was so sketchy that it wasn't difficult to recollect. I think the guy was telling her about his scheme. He's come up with a way to kill Esselman, and he's feeling clever. Maybe he thought she'd find it amusing, but she obviously doesn't. You ought to hear her on the tape. She's pissed off and upset. He's trying to act like it's all a big joke. The problem is, once he's told her, he's left himself open. If he actually intends to go through with it, she'll know it was him. Given her reaction, he can't trust her to keep quiet. So what's your theory? Bottom line, he said. I think she was killed because she knew too much. He made a face. Yeah, but Lorna died back in April. If the guy wanted to kill Esselman, why wait this long? The only thing that worried him was her blowing the whistle. Why not kill the old guy the minute she's dead? I don't know, I said. Maybe he had to wait until things cooled down? If he'd moved too quickly, he might have called attention to himself. He was listening, but I could tell he wasn't convinced. Go back to the murder scheme. What's the guy intend to do? I think he's talking about a variation on what actually happened. Clark and Max go through the same routine every morning. He throws a stick into the lap hole and she fetches. She's a retriever. She was born for this stuff. After they play, the two swim. So here's the deal. Suppose the pool's been electrified. He throws the stick. She leaps in and takes a big jolt. He sees that she's in trouble. He goes in after her and he dies too. It looks like an accident, some freaky set of circumstances everyone feels bad about. Poor guy. Tried to save his doggy and died in the process. In reality, Serena took the dog to the groomers, so Clark went in swimming by himself. Instead of Clark and the dog, you have Clark and the gardener, but the setup's the same. Amy was quiet for a moment. How do you know it's Lorna on the tape, he said. You've never heard her voice. The guy could be talking to Serena. Why would she be there in the first place? I asked promptly. I noticed it was more fun to ask questions than to have to answer them. I haven't made that part up yet. The point is, Serena's upset because she doesn't want the dog used as bait, so she takes Max off to the groomers to get her out of the way. Talk to Serena. The voice didn't sound like hers. Wait a minute. That's cheating. You told me the voices were distorted. You've talked to JD, and you said it didn't sound like him either. That's true, I said reluctantly. But you're suggesting Serena killed her own father? And I don't believe it. Why would she do it? The guy's got a lot of money. Doesn't she inherit his estate? Probably, but why kill him? He'd already had a heart attack, and his health was failing. All she had to do was wait, and probably not very long at that. Besides, I've seen her with him. There's nothing but affection, an occasional complaint about his stubbornness, but you can tell she admired him. Anyway, I'll see if I can get the tape back, and you can hear it for yourself. Who has it? Lita. She sent JD over to pick it up last night, or that was his claim. Actually, in the suspect apartment. They're not bad candidates. Both of them are nervous. I'd give the tape to the police. Neither has an alibi. And you know what JD does for a living? He's an electrician. If anybody'd know how to hotwire a lap pole, he did. Town's full of people who'd know enough to do that, he said. Anyway, if your theory's correct, then whoever killed Esselman had to be someone who knew the house, the pool, and the routine with the dog. That's right. Which brings us back to Serena. Maybe, I said slowly. The Roger Bonnie's another one who'd know all that. What's his motive? I have no idea, but he's certainly the link between Lorna and Esselman. Well, there you have it, Cheney snorted. Now, if Roger knows Stubby, the circle will be complete, and we can charge him with Moida. Cheney was being facetious, but he'd made a good point, and I could feel a ripple of uneasiness. My thoughts veered to Danielle and the man who'd walked off into the darkness of the alleyway. How do we know this isn't the same guy who went after Danielle? Maybe the attack on her connects up to everything else. Jimmy had reached my place, and he slowed to a stop. He pulled on the brake and put the car in neutral, turning to face me, his smile gone. Do me a favor and think about something else. It's a fun game, but you know as well as I do, it doesn't mean jack. I'm just trying on theories like throwing dinner plates against the wall to see if one will stick. He reached over and gave my hair a little tug. Just watch yourself. Even if you're right, and all these things are related, you can't go tearing off on your own, he said. This case belongs to the county sheriff. It's got nothing to do with you. Well, I know. Then don't give me that look. It's nothing personal. It is personal, especially when it comes to Danielle, I said. Would you quit worrying? She's safe. For how long? Any day now, they'll move her out of the ICU. Hospitals aren't exactly high security. You ought to see the people walking in and out of there. You're right about that. Let me think, son, and see what I can do. We'll talk soon, okay? He smiled, and I found myself smiling in return. Okay. Then I'll give you the number for my paper. Let me know if anything turns up. I'll do that, I said. He recited the number and had me repeat it back to him before he put the car in gear again. I stood at the curb and watched the Mazda pull away, and then moved through the gate and went around to the rear. It was Saturday afternoon, close to 3 o'clock. I let myself into my apartment and made a note of Cheney's pager number and left it on my desk. I felt I was in a state of suspended animation. The answer was hovering somewhere on the periphery, like spots in my field of vision that moved sideways every time that I turned to look. There had to be some chain of events, something that linked all the pieces of the puzzle. I needed a way to distract myself, setting all the questions aside until the few answers came. I went up to the spiral stairs to the loft and changed clothes, pulling on my sweatsuit and my jogging shoes. I took the house key in my pocket and trotted over to Cabana Boulevard. The day was crisp and clear, the mid-afternoon sun pouring over the distant mountains like a golden syrup. The ocean was a dazzling carpet of diamonds, the air freshly scented with the briny smell of sea. The run was a pleasure, bringing back in full measure the joys of physical activity. I did 4 miles, feeling strong, and when I came back, I took a shower and started over, eating cereal and toast while I read the paper that I hadn't had time to that morning. I went out and ran an errand or two, picking up groceries, stopping at a wine store. It was close to 6 o'clock when I finally felt relaxed enough to sit down at my desk and flip the lighting. I went back to my index cards. I was going through the motions, not really on the track of anything in particular, just trying to keep busy until I figured out what to do next. I glanced down at the sack that held the broken picture frames. Shit! Of course, I'd forgotten to take Danielle's bedding to the cleaners before it closed, but at least I could switch the frames. I moved over to the kitchen counter with the new frames I'd picked up. I put the wastebasket nearby and pulled the photographs from the paper bag. There were 4 8x10 enlargements, all in color. I removed the frame and the matting from the first, pausing to study the image. 3 cats lounging on a picnic table. The sleek gray tabby was in the process of jumping down, apparently not happy about the photographic immortality. The other 2 cats were long-haired, one pale cream and one black, staring at the camera with expressions of arrogance and disinterest, respectively. On the back, she'd written the date and the cats' names: Smokey, Tigger, and Cheshire. Alright, so on that night, on that note, boys and girls, we are going to our first music break. And on this break, we have Miss Mia Savage with her group, Antidote for Savages. And she's going to be singing Let Me Be Your Home, premiering Crypto, Your Skeleton, and Our New Reality. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
all the shit that he brings anymore. You're mine. You're mine. Tonight. You're mine.
Welcome back, and thanks so much for joining me in Weird Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Alright, I thought we'd be done with this book already and on to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Hopefully we can finish this before the next hour so we can get started on that book. I've been waiting forever. Alright. As I removed the photo from the cracked frame, the glass separated into two pieces. I tucked both in the trash can and tossed the frame in after them. Pulled out the new frame and peeled off the price tag, sliding the mat and the cardboard backing out of the frame. I tucked the photo between the backing and the mat, turning it over to make sure the image was straight. I eased the 3 layers, mat, photo, and backing, into the space between the glass and the series of staples that were sticking out of the frame. I turned it back again. It looked good. I picked up the second photograph and went through the same process. The glass was only cracked across one corner, but the frame itself was unsalvageable. This photograph showed 2 young men and a young woman on a sailboat, everyone with beer cans, sunburns, and wind-tangled hair. Danielle had probably taken the picture herself. It must have been a good day with good friends at the time in her life when she was still in possession of her innocence. I've been on outings like that. You come home dog-tired and dirty, but you never forget. In the third picture, Danielle was posing under a white trellised arch, in the company of a young, clean-cut guy. From the dress she was wearing, complete with an orchid on her wrist, I guessed that this was taken at her high school prom. It was nice getting a glimpse of her private life, images of her as she'd been before. She'd entered the life as surely as a novice entering a convent, with a gap just as wide between past and present. The last picture had been rematted, a wide band of gray reducing the framed image to its 2 central figures.
I blue glass sandwich after so Shadow was like roaming around the kitchen. She fell off of the freaking stove and knocked down the trash, which was kind of funny to see happen. But then Blue, while I wasn't looking, knocked it down the fence and got like a sandwich, whatever it was, trash.
I don't know.
And I don't know what's in it.
I don't know.
So I've been trying to get it away from her, but I can't.
Okay. Sorry about it.
Okay.
Sorry, boy.
Okay.
Alright. The last picture had been rematted, a wide band of gray reducing the framed image to its 2 central figures. Danielle and Lorna dressed up and sitting in a booth. It looked like a commercial photograph, taken by a roving photographer who made a living at snapping pictures on the spot. Hard to tell where this was taken, Los Angeles or Vegas, some glitzy nightclub, with dinner and dancing. From the background, I could see a portion of the bandstand and a potted plant. Champagne glasses on the table in front of them. The frame was cheap, but the wide gray matting was a nice choice for the subject matter, isolating the 2 of them. Both women were looking elegant, seated at a round table in a black leather padded booth. Lorna was so beautiful, dark-haired, hazel eyes, with a perfect oval face. Her expression was grave, with just the smallest hint of a smile on her lips. She wore a black satin cocktail dress, with long sleeves and a square low-cut neckline. The diamond hoop earrings sparkled at her ears. Danielle wore Kelly green, a form-fitting sequin top, probably with a mini-skirt, so I knew Danielle's taste. Her long dark hair had been smoothed into a French roll. I imagined Lorna getting her all dolled up for a kind of high-class date. 2 call girls in the town. Along the back of the booth, I could see a man's hand and arm extending behind Lorna. I could feel my heart begin to thump. I extracted the photograph from the frame and turned it over. With the matting removed, I could see all 4 people who had been sitting at the table that night. Roger, Danielle, Lorna, and Stubby Stockton. Oh man, this is it, I thought. This is it. Maybe not everything, but the heart of the riddle. I carried the photo with me to the telephone and called Cheney's pager number, punching in my own telephone number and the pound sign at the sound of the tone. I hung up. While I waited for him to return my call, I sat at my desk and sorted through my notes, pulling all the index cards on which Roger was mentioned. Most were from my initial interview, with additional notes from the conversation with Serena. I scanned the cards on the bulletin board, but there were no further references. I laid the cards out on my desk like a tarot reading. I found the notes I'd scribbled to myself after my meeting with him. Roger had told me Lorna called him Friday morning. I circled the day and added a question mark, affixing the card to the photograph and paperclip. The phone rang. "Kinsey home," I said automatically. "This is Cheney, what's up?" "I'm not sure. Let me tell you what I came across, and you tell me." I told him briefly how I'd acquired the photographs, and then I detailed the one that I was looking at. "I know you were kidding when you talked about Roger and Stubby, but they did know each other, and well enough to go whoring together somewhere out of town." I also went back through my notes and came across an interesting discrepancy. Roger told me that Lorna called him Friday morning, but she couldn't have possibly done that. She was dead by then. There was a brief silence. "I don't see where you're going with this." "I have no idea, that's why I'm calling you," I said. "I mean, suppose Roger and Stubby were in business together. If Lorna told Roger about her relationship with Esselman, they could have been using the information to pressure him. Esselman balked. So Stubby killed him? That's ridiculous. Stubby's got a lot of irons in the fire. This still doesn't work. He's got another one lined up, and if that fails, he's got more. Believe me, Stockton is in business to do business. Period. If Esselman dies, that only sets him back because now he's got to wait until someone's appointed to take Clark's place, yada yada yada. I'm not saying Stockton. I think it's Roger. He's the one that had the access to the pull equipment. He had access to Lorna. He had access to everything. Plus, he knew Danielle. Suppose he and Stockton talked business that night. Danielle's the only witness. How are you going to prove it? All you have is speculation. This is all air and sunshine. You've got nothing concrete, at least nothing you could take to the DA. He'd never go for it. What about the tape? That's not proof of anything. It's illegal for starters, and you don't even know it's Lorna. They could be talking about anything. You ever heard the concept of fruit of the poisonous tree? I've been thinking about this whole business ever since I dropped you off. You want people tampering with the crime scene, tampering with evidence. Any good defense attorney would rip you to shreds. What about Roger's claim Lorna called him Friday morning? So the guy was mistaken. She called some other day. What if I went in with a wire and had to talk with him? Let me ask. Cheney cut in, his tone a mixture of impatience and outrage. Ask him what? We're not going to wire you. Don't be asinine. What are you proposing? You go knock on his door. Hi, Raj, it's Kinsey. Who'd you kill today? Oh, no reason, just curious. Excuse me, would you mind speaking into this artificial flower I'm wearing in my lapel? This is not your job, face it. There's nothing you can do. Bullshit, that's bullshit. Well, it's bullshit you're gonna have to live with. We really shouldn't even be discussing this. Cheney, I'm tired of the bad guys winning. I'm sick of watching people get away with murder. How come the law protects them and not us? I hear you, Kinsey, but that doesn't change the facts. Even if you're right about Roger, you got no way to nail him, so you might as well drop it. Eventually he'll screw up, and we'll get him then. We'll see. Don't give me, we'll see. You'll do something stupid, and it's your ass, not his. I'll talk to you later. I got another call coming in. I hung up on him, steaming. I knew he was right, but I really hate that stuff, and he's being right only made it worse. I sat for a minute and stared at the photograph of Lorna and Danielle. Was I the only one who really cared about them? I held the missing piece of the puzzle, but there were no options open to me, no means of redress. There was something humiliating about my own ineffectiveness. Crossed the room and paced back, feeling powerless. The phone rang again, and I snatched up the receiver. It was Cheney. His voice was oddly flat. Hey, great, I was hoping you'd call back. Surely between us, there's a way to do this, I said. I thought he was calling to apologize for being such a hard-ass. I expected him to offer a suggestion about some action we might take. So I was completely unprepared for what came next. That was St. Terry's on the line. ICU nurse? We lost Danielle. She just died, he said. I felt myself blink, waiting for the punchline. She died? She went into cardiac arrest. I guess they coded her, but it was too late to pull her back. Danielle died? That's absurd. I just saw her last night. Kinsey, I'm sorry. The call just came in. I'm as surprised as you are. I hate to be the one to tell you, but I thought you should know. Cheney, my tone was rebuking, while his had become compassionate. You want me to come over? No, I don't want you to come over. I want you to quit f***ing with my head, I snapped. Why are you doing this? We'll be there in 15 minutes. The line clicked out and he was gone. Carefully, I set the receiver in the cradle. Still standing, I put a hand across my mouth. What was this? What was happening? How could Danielle be dead while Roger was beyond reach? At first, I felt nothing. My initial response was a curious blank. No sensation at all attached. I took in the truth content of what Cheney had told me, but there was no corresponding emotional reaction. Like a monkey, I plucked up his bright coin of information and turned it over in my hand. I believed in my head, but I couldn't comprehend with my heart. I remained motionless for perhaps a minute, and when feelings finally crept back, what I experienced wasn't grief, but a mounting fury. Like some ancient creature hurtling up from the deep, my rage broke the surface, and I struck. I picked up the receiver, put my hand in my jeans pockets, and pulled out the card that I'd been given in the limousine. The scribbled number was there, some magical combination of digits that spelled death. I dialed, giving absolutely no thought to what I was doing. I was propelled by the hot urge to act, by the blind need to strike back at the man who had dealt me this blow. After 2 rings, the phone was picked up on the other end. Yes? I said, Roger Bonnie killed Lorna Kepler. I hung up, I sat down, I felt my face twist with heat, and tears spilled briefly. I went into the bathroom and looked out the window, but the street beyond was dark. I went back to my desk. Oh, Jesus, what had I done? I picked up the phone and dialed the number again. Endless rings, no answer. I put the phone down, hands shaking. I pulled my gun from my bottom drawer and popped in a fresh clip. I eased the gun into the waistband at the back of my jeans and pulled on my jacket. I grabbed my handbag and car keys, turned out the lights, and locked the door behind me. I hit the 101 heading out toward Coldgate. I kept checking my rearview mirror, but there was no sign of the limousine. At Little Pony Road, I took the off-ramp and turned right, continuing past the fairgrounds until I reached the intersection at State. I stopped at the traffic light, drumming my fingers on the steering wheel in impatience, checking my rearview mirror again. Along the main thoroughfare, there was only one touch of color, words written out in red neon on the drugstore I spotted. Save On, the sign said. The shopping mall to my left was apparently having a gala all-night sale. Klieg lights pierced the sky. White plastic flags were strung from pole to pole. At the entrance of the parking lot, a clown and 2 mimes were motioning for passing cars to turn in. The 2 mimes in whiteface began a playlet between them. I couldn't tell what silent drama the 2 were enacting, but one turned and looked at me as I pulled away from the light. I checked back, but all I saw was the painted sorrow on his downturned mouth. I sped past the darkened service station. The bays and gasoline pumps shut down for the night. I could hear a burglar alarm clanging, apparently in a shop close by, but there was no sign of the police and no pedestrians running to see what was wrong. If there were actually burglars in the place, they could take their sweet time. We're all so accustomed to alarms going off that we pay no attention, assuming the switches have been tripped, an error meaning nothing. 6 blocks beyond, I crossed a smaller intersection, heading up the road that led to the water treatment plant. The area was largely unpopulated. I can see an occasional house on my right, but the fields across the road were scruffy and dotted with boulders. Coyotes yipped and howled in the distance, driven down from the hills by the need for water. It seemed too early in the evening for predators, but the pack was obeying a law of its own. They were hunting tonight, on the scent of prey. I pictured some hapless creature flying across the ground in fear of its life. The coyote kills quickly, and mercy its victim, though not much consolation. I turned into the entrance to the treatment plant. Lights were on in the building, and there were 4 cars out front. Oh, thanks.
Sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, boy. I left my handbag in the car, locking it behind me. There was no sign of the limousine. Then again, the guy wouldn't use his limo to make a hit, I thought. He'd probably send his goons. We might well check Roger's place first, wherever that might be. A county-owned truck had been parked in the drive. As I passed, I put a hand out. It was still warm to the touch. I went up the stairs to the lighted entry. I could feel the reassuring bulk of the handgun in my small of my back. I pushed through the glass doors. The receptionist's desk was empty. Once upon a time, Lorna Kepler had sat there. I was curious to imagine her working here day after day, greeting visitors, answering the telephone, exchanging small talk with the control technician and senior treatment mechanics. Maybe it was her last shred of pretense, the final gesture that she had made toward being an ordinary person. On the other hand, she might have found herself genuinely interested in aeration, maniforms, and flash mix basins. The interior of the building seemed quiet at first. Fluorescent lights glowed against the polished tile floors. The corridor was deserted. From one of the rear offices, I picked up the strains of a country music station. I could hear someone banging on a pipe, but the sound came from deep in the bowels of the building. I moved quickly down the hallway, glancing left into Roger's office. The lights were on, but he was nowhere to be seen. I heard footsteps approaching. A fellow in coveralls and a baseball cap came around the corner, moving in my direction. He seemed to take my presence for granted. No, he took his cap off politely at the sight of me. His hair was a mass of curly gray mashed into a cap-shaped line around his head. "Can I help you with something?" "I'm looking for Roger." The fellow pointed down. "That's him you hear, wumping on the sample lines. He was in his 50s, with a wide face and a dimple in his chin. A nice smile. He reached out a hand and introduced himself. "I'm Delbert Squalls." "Kinsey Mulholland," I said. "Could you let Roger know that I'm here? It's urgent." "Sure, no problem. Actually, I'm just on my way down. Why don't you follow me?" "Thanks." Squalls retraced his steps and opened the glass paneling door into the area that I'd seen before. Multicolored pipes, a wall of dials and gauges. I could see the gaping hole in the floor. Orange plastic cones had been set across one end, warning the unwary about the dangers of tumbling in. I said, "How many guys do you have working tonight?" "Let me see, 5, counting me. Come on, this way." "You're not claustrophobic, I hope." "Not a bit," I lied, following him as he crossed the opening. My previous visit, I'd seen a moving river of black water down there, silent smelling of chemicals, looking like nothing I'd ever seen before. Now I could see lights and the bleak walls of concrete, discolored in places where the water had passed. I felt the need to swallow. "Where'd all the water go?" I asked. "We shut the sluice gates and then we have a couple of big basins it drains into," he said conversationally. "It's about 4 hours. We do this once a year. We've got some posturation sample lines in the process of repair. They'd almost completely corroded, been clogged for months until this shut down. About 10 hours to get the work done, and then back she comes." A series of metal rungs affixed to the wall formed a ladder, leading down into the channel. The banging had stopped. Delbert turned around and edged his foot down into the opening, and then proceeded to descend. Tink, 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 with the soles of his shoes on the metal rungs. As he sank from sight, I moved forward, turning myself. Then I descended as he had to the tunnel below. Once we reached the bottom, we were 12 feet underground, standing in the influent channel through which millions of gallons of water had passed. Down here, it was always night, and the only moon shone in the form of 200-watt bulb. The passage smelled damp and earthy. I could see the sluice gate at the dark end of the tunnel, streaks of sediment on the floor. This felt like spelunking, not a passion of mine. I spotted Roger with his back to us, working on an overhead line. He was standing on a ladder about 15 feet away, a big light bulb in a metal guard hooked on the pipe near his face. He wore blue coveralls and black rubber hip boots. I could see a denim jacket tucked across the ladder's brace. It was chilly down here, and I was glad I had my jacket. Roger didn't turn. "That you, Delbert?" he said over his shoulder. "That's me. About a friend of yours, Miss... What is it? Kinley?" "Miss Kinsey," I corrected. Roger turned the light, glittering in his eyes, and bleached all the color from his flesh. "Well, I was expecting you," he said. Delbert had his hands on his hips. "You need some help with that?" "Not really. Why don't you find Paul and give him a hand?" "Will do." Delbert started up the ladder again, leaving us alone. His head disappeared back. Hips, legs, boots. It was very quiet. Roger came down from the ladder he was on, wiping his hands on a rag, while I stood there trying to decide how to go about this. I saw him pick up the jacket and check a pocket in front. "This is not what you think," I said. "Listen. Lorna was getting married the weekend she was murdered. Earlier this week, a fellow picked me up in a limo with a couple of flunkies in bulging overcoats." I felt my voice trail off. He had something in his hand about the size of a walkie-talkie. black plastic housing, a couple of buttons on the front. You know what this is? Looks like a taser gun. That's right. He pressed a button and two tiny shot out on the electrical wires that carry 120,000 volts. The minute the probes touched me, I was down, my whole body numb. Couldn't move, couldn't breathe. After a few seconds, my brain started to work. I knew what had happened. I just didn't know what to do about it. Of all the responses I'd imagined him making, this was not on my list. I lay on my back like a stone, trying to find a way to heave oxygen into my lungs. None of my extremities responded to cues. In the meantime, Roger patted me down, coming up with my gun, which he tucked in the pocket of his overalls. I was making a sound, but it probably wasn't very loud. He moved to the wall and climbed the ladder. I thought he was going to lead me down there. Instead, he flipped the trapdoor so that it came down on the hole. Thought we might like a little privacy, he said as he descended. He found a plastic bucket that had been tossed to one side. He tossed it upside down and took a seat not too far from me. He leaned close. Mildly, he said, "Fuck with me. I'll smother you with this jacket. Weak as you are, it's not going to leave any marks." That's what he did with Lorna, I thought. Shot her with a stun gun. Put a pillow across her face. Wouldn't have taken long. I felt like a baby in the early stages of development, moving my limbs randomly in an attempt to turn. Grunting, I managed to roll over on my side. I lay there breathing, looking at the wet pavement from the corner of my eye. My cheek rested on something gritty. Anthracite, sludge, small shells. I collected myself, inching my right arm up under me. I heard the trapdoor open, and Delbert Squalls called down, "Roger?" "Yes?" "The guy up here to see you." "Oh, hell," he breathed. And then to Delbert, "Tell him I'll be right there." I rolled an eye at him, unable to speak, and saw a grimace of impatience cross his face. He got his arms under me and hauled me into the sitting position, propping me against the wall. Like a rag doll, I sat with my legs straight out in front of me, feet tilted together, my shoulders slumped. At least I was breathing. Above me, I could hear someone walking around. I wanted to warn him. I wanted to tell him he was making a terrible mistake. While I had made grunting noises, Roger was going up the ladder, his feet going tink, tink, tink. Head and shoulders disappearing. I felt tears fill my eyes. My limbs were deadened from the electrical jolt. I tried moving my arms, but the result was the same ineffectual feeling as discovering your extremities. Asleep. I began to flex one fist, trying to get the blood to circulate. My whole body felt oddly anesthetized. Ah! Holy shnikes. I listened, straining, but heard nothing. I struggled and finally managed to topple sideways, turning over on my hands and knees, where I remained, breathing hard, until I could gain my feet. I don't know how long it took. All was silence above. I reached for the ladder and clung to the closest rung. After a moment, I began to ascend. By the time I climbed out, there was no sign of anyone in the corridor. I forced myself forward and began to navigate better, but my arms and legs still felt oddly disconnected. I reached his office, where I peered in the door, leaned on the frame. There was no sign of him. My gun had been placed neatly in the center of his blotter. I crossed the desk and picked it up, tucking it into the small of my back again. I left the office, moving into the reception area. Delbert Squalls was sitting at the desk, leafing through the telephone book, probably ordering pizzas for the night crew. He looked up as I passed. I said, "Where'd Roger go?" "Don't tell me he left you down there. The man's got no manners. You dismissed him. He took off with that guy in the overcoat. Said he'd be right back. You want to leave him a note?" "I don't think that's necessary." "Oh well, suit yourself." He went back to his search. "Good night, Delbert." "Good night. Have a good evening," he said, reaching for the phone. I emerged from the building into the chill night air. The wind had picked up again in the sky, though cloudless, bore the fragrance of a distant rain heading in this direction. There was no moon, and the stars looked as though they'd been blown up against the mountains. I went down the stairs to the slot where my car was parked. I let myself into the VW and turned the key in the ignition, pulling out onto the road that led back to town. As I crossed the intersection, I thought I caught sight of a limousine slipping into the dark. Epilogue. Roger Bonney hasn't been seen since that night. Only a few people understand what really happened to him. He spent a long time in conversation with Lieutenant Dolan and Tony Phillips, and for once, I told the truth. Given the enormity of what I'd done, I felt I had to accept the responsibility. In the end, after much consideration, they decided no purpose would be served in pursuing the matter. They did go through the motions of a missing persons investigation, but nothing came of it, and so it rests. Now in the dead of night, I ponder the part I played in Lorna Kepler's story. From the laying to rest of those ghosts, homicide calls up in us the primitive desire to strike a like blow, an impulse to inflict a pain commensurate with the pain we've been dealt. For the most part, we depend upon judicial process to settle our grievances. Perhaps we've even created the clumsy strictures of the courts to keep our savageries in check. The problem is that so often the law seems pale in its remedies, leaving us restless and unfulfilled in our craving for satisfaction. And then what? As for me, the question I'm left with is simple and haunting. Having strayed into the shadows, can I find my way back? Respectfully submitted, Kinsey Milhone. And we finally finished it. Oh man, and we only got a little bit of time to get into The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and this is by Douglas Adams. I'm super excited. I've been waiting a while to read this. Hey Jay! Hi Kyle! Oh, Kyle, the channel is generally like paranormal cryptid, stuff like that. On Sundays I do story time to kind of change the pace of stuff, but thanks for joining us. Alright, and after this we're going to watch a creepy video. I was thinking about doing creepy TikToks, but a video would be far easier. Alright, here we go. Far out in the uncharted backwaters of the unfashionable end of the western spiral arm of the galaxy lies a small, unregarded yellow sun. Orbiting this at a distance of roughly 98 million miles is an utterly insignificant little blue-green planet whose ape-descended life forms are so amazingly primitive that they still think digital watches are a pretty neat idea. This planet has, or rather had, a problem, which was this. Most of the people living on it were unhappy for pretty much of the time. Many solutions were suggested for this problem, but most of these were largely concerned with the movements of small green pieces of paper, which is odd because, on the whole, it wasn't the small green pieces of paper that were unhappy. And so the problem remained. Lots of the people were mean, and most of them were miserable, even the ones with digital watches. Many were increasingly of the opinion that they'd all made a big mistake in coming down from the tree in the first place. And some said that even the trees had been a bad move, and that no one should ever have left the oceans. And then, one Thursday, nearly 2,000 years after one man had been nailed to a tree for saying how great it would be to be nice to people for a change, a girl sitting on her own in a small cafe in Rickmansworth suddenly realized what it was that had been going wrong all this time. And she finally knew how the world could be made a good and happy place. This time, it was right. It would work, and no one would have to get nailed to anything. Sadly, however, before she could get to the phone to tell anyone about it, a terrible, stupid catastrophe occurred, and the idea was lost forever. This is not her story, but it is the story of that terrible, stupid catastrophe and some of its consequences. It is also the story of a book called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Not an Earth book, never published on Earth, and until the terrible catastrophe occurred, never seen or even heard of by any Earthman. Nevertheless, a wholly remarkable book. In fact, it was probably the most remarkable book ever to come out of the great publishing corporations of Ursa Minor, of which no Earthman had ever heard either. Not only is it a wholly remarkable book, it is also a highly successful one, more popular than the Celestial Home Care Omnibus, better selling than 53 More Things to Do in Zero Gravity, and more controversial than Oolong Colifid's trilogy of philosophical blockbusters, Where God Went Wrong, Some More of God's Greatest Mistakes, and Who's This God Person Anyway? In many of the more relaxed civilizations on the outer eastern rim of the galaxy, the Hitchhiker's Guide has already supplanted the great Encyclopedia Galactica as the standard repository of all knowledge and wisdom, for though it has many omissions and contains much that is apocryphal, or at least wildly inaccurate, it scores over the older, more pedestrian work in two important respects. First, it is slightly cheaper, and second, it has the words "Don't Panic" inscribed in large, friendly letters on its cover. But the story of this terrible, stupid Thursday, the story of its extraordinary consequences, and the story of how these consequences were inextricably intertwined with this remarkable book begins very simply. It begins with a house. Chapter 1. The house stood on a slight rise just on the edge of the village. It stood on its own and looked out over a broad spread of West Country farmland. Not a remarkable house by any means. It was about 30 years old, squattish, squarish, made of brick, and had 4 windows set in the front, of a size and proportion which more or less exactly failed to please the eye. The only person for whom the house was in any way special was Arthur Dent, and that was only because it happened to be the one that he lived in. He had lived in it for about 3 years, ever since he had moved out of London because it made him nervous and irritable. He was about 30, as well, tall, dark-haired, and very quiet, at ease with himself. The thing that used to worry him most was the fact that people always used to ask him what he was looking so worried about. He worked in the local radio, which he always used to tell his friends was a lot more interesting than they probably thought. It was, too. Most of his friends worked in advertising. On Wednesday night, it had rained very heavily. The lane was wet and muddy, but the Thursday morning sun was bright and clear as it shone on Arthur Dent's house, for what was to be the last time. It hadn't properly registered yet with Arthur, but the council wanted to knock it down and build a bypass instead. At 8 o'clock on Thursday morning, Arthur didn't feel very good. He woke up blearily, got up, wandered blearily round his room, opened a window, saw a bulldozer, found his slippers, and stomped off to the bathroom to wash. Toothpaste on the brush, so scrub. Shaving mirror, pointing at the ceiling. He adjusted it for a moment, and reflected a second dozer through the bathroom window. Properly adjusted, it reflected Arthur Dent's bristles. He shaved them off, washed, dried, and stomped off to the kitchen to find something pleasant to put in his mouth. Kettle, plug, fridge, milk, coffee, yawn. The word bulldozer wandered through his mind for a moment in search of something to connect with. The bulldozer outside the kitchen window was quite a big one. He stared at it. Yellow, he thought, and stomped off back to his bedroom to get dressed. Passing the bathroom, he stopped to drink a large glass of water, and another. He began to suspect that he was hungover. Why was he hungover? Had he been drinking the night before? We suppose that he must have been. He caught a glint in the shaving mirror. Yellow, he thought, and stomped on to the bedroom. He stood and thought. The pub, he thought. Oh dear, the pub. He vaguely remembered being angry about something that seemed important. He'd been telling people about it at great length, he rather suspected. His clearest visual recollection was of glazed looks on other people's faces. Something about a new bypass that he'd just found out about. It had been in the pipeline for months, and no one seemed to have known about it. Ridiculous. He took a swig of water. It would sort itself out, he decided. No one wanted a bypass. The council didn't have a leg to stand on. It would sort itself out. God, what a terrible hangover it had earned him, though. He looked at himself in the wardrobe mirror. He stuck out his tongue. Yellow, he thought. The word yellow wandered through his mind in search of something to connect with. 15 seconds later, he was out of the house and lying in front of a big yellow bulldozer that was advancing up his garden path. Mr. Alprosser was, as they say, only human. In other words, he was a carbon base bipedal life form descended from an ape. More specifically, he was 40, fat and shabby, and worked for the local council. Curiously enough, though, he didn't know it. He was also a direct male line descendant of Genghis Khan. Though intervening generations and racial mixing had so juggled his genes that he had no discernible Mongoloid characteristics, and the only vestiges left in Mr. L. Prosser of his mighty ancestry were a pronounced stoutness about the tongue and a predilection for little fur hats. He was by no means a great warrior. In fact, he was a nervous, worried man. Today, he was practically nervous and worried because something had gone seriously wrong with his job, which was to see Arthur Dent's house get cleared out of the way before the day was out. "I'm off it, Mr. Dent," he said. "You can't win, you know. You can't lie in front of the bulldozer indefinitely." He tried to make his eyes blaze fiercely, but they just wouldn't do it. Arthur lay in the mud and squelched at him. "I'm game," he said. "We'll see who rusts first." "I'm afraid you're going to have to accept it," said Mr. Prosser, gripping his fur hat and rolling it round top of his head. "The bypass has got to be built, and it's going to be built." "First I've heard of it," said Arthur. "Why's it got to be built?" Mr. Prosser shook his finger at him for a bit, then stopped and put it away again. "What do you mean, why's it got to be built?" he said. "It's a bypass. You've got to build bypasses." Bypasses are devices that allow some people to dash from point A to point B very fast, while other people dash from point B to point A very fast. People living at point C, being a point directly in between, are often given to wonder what's great about point A, that so many people from point B are so keen to get there. And what's so great about point B, that so many people from point A are so keen to get there? They often wish that people would just once and for all work out where the hell they wanted to be. Mr. Prosser wanted to be at a point D. Point D wasn't anywhere in particular. It was just an inconvenient point, very long away from points A, B, and C. He would have a nice little cottage at point D, with axes over the door, and spend a pleasant amount of time at point E, which would be the nearest pub to point D. His wife, of course, wanted the climbing roses, but he wanted axes. He didn't know why, he just liked axes. He flushed hotly under the derisive grins of the bulldozer drivers. He shifted his weight from foot to foot, but it was equally uncomfortable on each. Obviously, somebody had been appallingly incompetent, and he hoped to God it wasn't him. Mr. Prosser said, "You were quite entitled to make any suggestions or protests at the appropriate time, you know." "Appropriate time?" hooted Arthur. "Appropriate time. The first I knew about it was when a workman arrived at my home yesterday. I asked him if he'd come to clean the windows, and he said no. He'd come to demolish the house. He didn't tell me straight away, of course. Oh, no. First he wiped a couple of the windows, then charged me a $5. Then he told me. But Mr. Dent, the plans had been available in the local planning office for the last 9 months. Oh, yes, well, as soon as I heard, I went straight round to see them. Yesterday afternoon. You hadn't exactly gone out of your way to call attention to them, had you? I mean, like actually telling anybody or anything? But the plans were on display. On display? I eventually had to go down to the cellar to find them. That's the display department? With a flashlight. Well, the lights had probably gone. So had the stairs. Look, you found the notice, didn't you? Yes, said Arthur. Yes, I did. It was on display in the bottom of the locked filing cabinet, stuck in a disused lavatory with a sign on the door saying, "Beware of the leopard." A cloud passed overhead. It cast a shadow over Arthur Dent as he lay propped up on his elbow in the cold mud. It cast a shadow over Arthur Dent's house. Mr. Prosser frowned at it. It's not as if it's particularly a nice house, he said. I'm sorry, but I happen to like it. You like the bypass. Oh, shut up, said Arthur Dent. Shut up and go away, and take your bloody bypass with you. You haven't got a leg to stand on, and you know it. Mr. Prosser's mouth opened and closed a couple of times, while his mind was for a moment filled with inexplicable but terribly attractive visions of Arthur Dent's house being consumed with fire, and Arthur himself running screaming from the blazing room with at least 3 hefty spears protruding from his back. Mr. Prosser was often bothered with visions like these, and they made him feel very nervous. He stuttered for a moment and then pulled himself together. Mr. Dent, he said. Hello, yes, said Arthur. Some factual information for you. Have you any idea how much damage that bulldozer would suffer if I just let it roll straight over you? Much, said Arthur. None at all, said Mr. Prosser, and stormed nervously off, wondering why his brain was filled with 1,000 hairy horsemen, all shouting at him. On that note, boys and girls, we are going to go to our second music break. On this break, we have Miss Mia Savage with her band Antidote for Savages, and she's going to be singing Not a Phase, Bury Me in Heaven, which is one of my faves, Singing to Your Grave, and the bottom line, you guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
Break the sound of this circle.
No record, no work, no job, no savings or money. Just a choice right now between fear and love. Choice right now between fear and love.
Welcome back, guys, gals, ghouls. Alright, so we're to the portion of our show where we shall watch a creepy video together. This channel is really awesome. Let me get there really quick. Like.
In just a few moments.
Okay, so the creepiest and most unexplained things that are shaking the internet. And this is by That Is Impossible. I can't remember this guy's name, but like I said, he does a really awesome job. Alright, let's get to it.
Look at this. Bro.
Black Hawk helicopters.
Okay, this is the craziest thing. I have never seen anything like this.
Living in the Appalachian Mountains, my grandma taught me one thing. As soon as that sun goes down, you come inside.
Bro, what the hell's going on here?
I was just talking about that last night. It's crazy.
Hey!
Hi, I'm James LaFleur and you're watching the Impossible Channel. Welcome aboard.
James LaFleur.
Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications on for more videos like this. Today we're going to be taking a look at a series of strange and mysterious phenomena that began happening after the eclipse. We're also going to be taking a look at a creepy encounter with a humanoid creature in the Appalachian Mountains. Not to mention unexplained sightings and glitches caught on camera and ghostly encounters with shadow people. Are you guys ready? Well, let's go. Almost 500 years ago, in 1566, residents of Basel, Switzerland reported seeing numerous strange and unexplained celestial phenomena. These sightings were documented by Samuel Cassius, a respected scholar at the time, and according to Cassius' account, large black spheres appeared, moving erratically over the town. Those objects engaged in what appeared to be some sort of space battle, darting around the sky and colliding with each other. The spectacle lasted for several hours, but what's even stranger is that a few months later, on August 1566, it happened again. Strange, isn't it? But what's even stranger is that just a few months prior to these mysterious sightings, a partial solar eclipse had happened in Europe. And back in those days, many people believed that both the sightings and the eclipse might have hit somehow. Now to this day, no one knows if there was any connection between the eclipse and the sightings. What I do know, however, is that historically speaking, solar eclipses have always been seen as a bad omen. And it wasn't much different this year with the eclipse that happened back in April in the US and in Mexico, where thousands of people believed that something strange would start happening after the eclipse.
Crack is that?
Okay, this is the crazy thing. I have never seen anything like this in my entire life. And I lived in Florida my entire life.
Now it could be just a coincidence, but for the past few weeks, several videos started popping up all over social media of bizarre patterns and unexplained phenomena that began occurring after the eclipse.
What is that?
Oh my god, what is happening, guys? Do you see this? There's two suns. What is this? Oh my god.
I'm seeing two suns, but have you ever seen two moons?
A farmer by the name of Gen X Lena 68 on TikTok noticed that after the eclipse her cows would not stay out in the sun anymore.
You know, I've been living here a minute. There's probably 8 or 10 cows clustered.
I was talking about this last night too. It's not even hot yet.
I thought it was weird the other day, but like, it's not even hot here yet. It's not even hot. Look at them all. Seriously, look. Watch.
Wow.
From one
Next
tree to the next.
Wow.
They are not grazing out in the field under the sun ever. And it's not hot enough for this.
This, for instance, is a video uploaded by the Everyday Family. It was a sunny afternoon and they were in Kelly's Island in Ohio, when all of a sudden they spot something that they had never seen before. Check this
Crazy
out.
thing. I have never seen anything like this in my entire life. And I lived in Florida my entire life.
What is that?
Those are all bugs. I thought the restaurant was smoking.
Oh,
Those are
wow.
all bugs. You can even see them flying, like, dude, you can't even tell on the video how many there are.
I wonder what kind
There
of bugs.
are millions and billions and trillions of bugs here right now. All of those lines, bugs.
Weird.
Oh my gosh. They're getting closer to me so you can start seeing them more. Oh, I cannot believe this. I've literally never seen anything like this in my entire life. It's like it's pouring rain. It's literally not even raining. These are bugs.
What at first looks like several funnel clouds can be seen in the sky. But then if you look closely, these are actually insects.
So
Millions
weird.
of them. After being posted, the video caught a lot of attention and internet users were divided. While some believe that this is a natural phenomenon that occurs from time to time, others stated that
I
this
don't even
is a
think that was
bad
supposed to happen
omen.
in Florida.
Some also believe that these are actually mosquitoes or insects that are being dropped from the sky.
Thanks, Bill Gates. Wow.
Now this may sound far-fetched at first, but in the past couple of years there have been several videos popping up all over the internet of what's supposed to be this chopper dropping mosquitoes from the sky. And to make things even stranger, it didn't happen only once. There are more videos, such as this one from Mr. Phoenix NYC Forever, was recorded in the Afrim Festival in Baltimore.
It's a helicopter watching us run away from the clouds as they drop and blow up on the sky. Happened out of nowhere.
Oh, snap.
All these people are leaving. Look at this thing. It's been taking all these people out of nowhere. It's a story.
Now I'm not exactly sure that this is what's going on in this particular video. It could be just a natural phenomenon known as bugnado, which is caused by a combination of wind and thermal uplift from the warming ground. But here's the thing, like the uploader states, She has never seen anything like this before in her entire lifetime. And apparently, most people on the internet haven't either. So what's going on here? Is this supposed to be happening, or is there something else going on? But when it comes to strange and mysterious phenomena seen after the eclipse, it doesn't stop there.
It's freaking amazing.
It was a sunny afternoon in Nevada, USA, just a couple of days after the eclipse, when Misfit Vibes captured something chilling on camera.
What the F are the sparkles in the sky after the solar eclipse?
What? Oh, I see it.
What looks like several blinking objects can be clearly seen hovering just above the city. Whatever's going on here, this definitely does not look like drones, choppers, planes, or anything I've ever seen before. Needless to say, it didn't take long before the video went viral and caught a lot of attention. Some believe that these are just bugs that normally come out at night and are now flying under the sun. Others believe that these could be ice crystals falling from the upper atmosphere from temperature change. But there are also many who believe that these could be orbs or interdimensional beings. Now, whatever it is that Misfit Vibes saw that sunny afternoon in Nevada, it looks too big to be bugs or ice crystals. So, what is it? But if all of this wasn't strange enough, it gets even stranger. In this next video posted by Primal Dad on Instagram, we can see what looks like a crack on the ground. But there's something odd about it, and he was able to capture it on camera.
What the hell's going on here? I was just walking over this crack with water in it, and it's just like pulsing. What is that, bro? I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Wow.
See that?
I have no
It's like filling up and empty. It's like beating, bro. Never seen anything like that, and it's only on this spot here. The rest is just a crack. I don't know, bro. You guys tell me.
No,
It's awfully strange.
he was on the floor outside.
Strange,
I don't
isn't
think
it?
she's
But I want to know
sleeping
your
because
thoughts.
I don't see
Is
her
this
sleeping.
maybe
We're
just a
just down.
coincidence,
Yeah, they were just
or
out there
does it
fighting.
actually have something to do with the
That's
eclipse,
probably being in her.
like the event that happened back in the 1500s?
Yeah,
What's your take?
About 35 minutes. Come over here, Sir Chinese.
I don't know.
In one of my previous videos, I featured a chilling story coming in from the Appalachian Mountains. The story features Dustin Lee Frazier, a man who uploads normal vlog-type videos and all of a sudden started having these bizarre encounters in the hotel that he worked at.
I don't know why, like, I have tried.
From the many videos that he uploaded, in some of them he actually got to capture what looks like some sort of demon on camera.
Oh my gosh, what the heck is that?
Okay. So curly in there.
What the heck? There's something else at his work too. I thought this was the video. I haven't seen this one yet. It looks crazy. What the hell is that?
At the time, Dustin's videos caught a lot of attention, and most people were speculating that he was most likely dealing with a skinwalker. But it wasn't just Dustin that caught loads of attention, so did the Appalachian Mountains. Now, the Appalachian Mountains, for those of you who do not know, is a huge mountain range that stretches from Canada to Alabama. It's steeped in eerie legends and ghostly tales. For centuries, locals have shared stories of phantom lights, eerie apparitions, and mysterious sounds echoing through the dense forests.
What the heck is that?
For those who live in the Appalachian Mountains, it's apparently no big secret that there are strange and unknown things lurking in the woods.
Living in the Appalachian Mountains, my grandma taught me one thing. As soon as that sun goes down, you come inside. You shut those curtains, because if you can see out, then someone or something can see in. And never ever whistle in the woods. You never know what you'll call.
Now the video that I'm about to show you guys happened recently in the Appalachian Mountains in West Virginia. It was uploaded by WV Paranormal YouTube channel, a channel that focuses on living deep in the woods. It all started a couple of months ago when WV Paranormal decided to start recording family moments on camera.
Alright guys, I think it's time to go in and get ready for a bath. Okay?
In one particular video, he hears strange sounds coming from outside at night, so he goes to check, and he actually captures what looks like some sort of creature hiding behind a tree.
Reaper.
Did you hear that? Hey, did you hear that?
Hear what?
Wow. Can't believe he didn't see that.
At the time, he didn't think much of it, so he just ignored it. But because he was always outside playing with the kids and doing chores, he started noticing strange things. A few days later, his wife was left alone with the kids at home when all of a sudden she starts hearing strange sounds once again coming from outside.
Alright, we're going
Is that
back
like a break or
Now
something?
at this point, both of them thought that they were
damn
dealing with
alley?
a person that might have been stalking them all this time. It was just recently, while WV Paranormal was playing with his kids outside, that he captured something chilling on camera.
Over where? Hey! What are you doing over there?
What the heck? Let's play that back. I didn't see it. Say it was a lady? There's a lady over here.
Where did it go?
Sorry about the internet, I have Century Sync.
Did you see that? What at first looks like a person stalking them around can be seen in the video. But then, if we look closely and we zoom in
I
and
see it.
replay the
Holy
video a
crap.
couple of times, you'll see that there's something odd about this person.
Oh my
Whatever this
gosh.
thing is, its arms are just too long to be any known human being. So this has to be something else entirely. After being posted, the video amassed
How
millions
the
of views
skinwalker I
and
saw
thousands of
was
comments, and
long
most internet
arms.
users seem to agree
Skinny fingers.
that this is possibly
Like
some sort of
extended.
creature like a skinwalker or maybe even a rake. Some others believe that this is possibly fake or staged, and it could be. But if we take into consideration all of the strange stories coming in from the Appalachian Mountains, it could just be that WV Paranormal captured on camera whatever it is that lurks in these woods.
That ain't no hillbilly.
In today's world, the constant bombardment of information and visual stimulus makes it challenging to actually pay attention to the little things. Our phones and screens demand our focus, often at the expense of the world around us. But when we manage to disconnect and truly pay attention to the little things, we can sometimes witness the strangest and most unexplained moment ever. And in very rare cases, actually capture it on camera, which was what happened with this particular video recorded by Candy Crush Whips. It was a sunny day and he was out fishing with a couple of friends of his when all of a sudden, this happened. Did you see that? If you watch closely and if we slow-mo and rewind the video, you'll clearly see what looks like the sky glitching. After being posted, the video amassed millions of views and thousands of people were completely baffled. Many believe that this is a legit glitch in the Matrix, while others think that this is just a camera exposure glitch or the camera automatically adjusting the brightness, which I honestly thought it was too. But then I realized how the person who's fishing also seems to notice the sky glitching in real time, which suggests that this is not a camera exposure glitch or anything like that. This is possibly the real deal and most internet users seem to agree.
Weird.
Now what's even weirder is that many people left comments stating that they have already seen something like this before. Could it be that this is a legit glitch in the Matrix caught on camera, or is it something else entirely? But when it comes to strange glitches, it doesn't stop there.
Juliao, ¿qué onda? Miren cómo está el cielo. ¿Qué?
Wow.
What?
There's one particular glitch that's been trending for the past few years that's creeping a lot of people out, and it kind of involves self-driving cars.
Oh my gosh.
Now, as you may already know, these self-driving cars use advanced technologies such as LiDAR, radar, and AI-powered image recognition to identify pedestrians and other cars around them. So because this technology is quite new, occasional bugs and glitches are to be expected. So sometimes you can't identify a truck, a car, or a person who's not actually there. However, there's one particular glitch that's become quite difficult to explain. There are hundreds of videos of people driving by cemeteries and actually capturing on camera what looks like entities or ghosts walking by.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Right here, watch. There's a couple of them. Watch.
I see two people.
One, two, three.
Alright, we're in a cemetery. Please show yourself if you're.
Who's there?
Yeah, I'm not playing. I told you. Oh, I can't believe it. I told you. Oh my God. I told you. Get out of here. You guys stop kidding.
Don't be scared.
It's not just 2 or 3 videos, we're talking about hundreds of videos where the same thing happens. Now when this first started happening, people thought that the image recognition system was actually identifying tombstones and replacing it with people.
I don't think so. What?
Now when this first started happening, everyone thought that this was just a glitch on the image recognition system, which kind of makes sense. However, in certain situations, it's quite clear that the image recognition system is either completely broke or it's working too well and actually capturing entities and ghosts on camera.
Oh wow, near the Conjuring hips. I wonder if that's where Bathsheba is buried. I don't know. It's so creepy.
It's next door. Oh man.
Yeah. I saw one of these two where they were picking this up and then they left, and as they were going down the highway, one of these figures was just following them the whole time.
Could it really be that these are ghosts, spirits, or some sort of entity that the car is identifying in the cemetery? Strange, isn't it? But it gets even stranger when all of these entities start gathering around the car, and when the owner opens the door, this is what happens.
Oh no. Why would you do that?
There are so many people showing up on the screen.
They all seem to vanish into thin air.
No, they got him.
In this specific video recorded recently in Asia, a man stops by a cemetery and this is what happens.
像人吗？全是人影，可是一个人没有。我的天哪！
In this particular video, it's very clear that the car system isn't confusing tombstones for people. So what's going on here? And why does this only happen in cemeteries? Could this prove that there's more to this reality than we ever imagined? And could it be that the image recognition system is so advanced that it actually identifies ghosts and spirits? But when it comes to really strange glitches, it doesn't stop there.
Aí, pô. Dá uma olhada aqui no estrago que o vento fez.
The state of Mato Grosso in Brazil is known for its vast size and abundant nature. It's one of those places you have to visit at least once in your lifetime. But beyond its natural beauty, Mato Grosso is also shrouded in mystery, with a number of strange stories of fiery objects and mysterious things in the sky. Just a couple of weeks ago, on a bright morning, Leandro Gotardo was walking through his farm when he noticed that several of his trees had been torn apart, as if something incredibly fast had passed through that area. This is what he caught on camera.
E não foi só vento, não.
It wasn't the wind for sure.
Com certeza. Olha onde ele desceu aqui, ó. Pegou lá no canto da casa do pai, desceu ali e olha o estilo do estrago, ó. Isso aí não é vento.
That's crazy.
Né? Ó, torceu todos os eucaliptos, ó.
Oh, it looks like
Olha onde passou
the
lá pra
bark's
baixo.
knocked off.
Não tá dando pra ver.
Whatever happened at Leandro's farm left him and the entire internet completely baffled. At first, one would think that this is just wind or maybe even a tornado. But then again, the number of tornadoes happening in Brazil is almost close to zero. Not only that, Leandro also noticed that all of the trees that got taken down were equally shattered, making it look like something had carved a path through them.
Uma faixa assim de 20 metros de largura. O que tinha na frente levou tudo.
It's crazy.
Vento normal não faz esse tipo de coisa nas madeiras, né? E todas.
Not to mention that some of the trees that were still standing looked like they were bent.
Ó, torceu todos os eucaliptos, ó. Olha onde passou lá pra baixo, ó.
Now I did a quick research on how trees look like when they're taken down by a tornado, just in case there was one in Mato Grosso, but this is how they look. A bit different, isn't it? I also googled Mato Grosso state and trees that had been possibly taken down by tornadoes, and I found none. After being posted, several internet users seemed to agree that there was something really odd about this. It really looked as if something had fallen from the sky, maybe a meteor, maybe something else. But I'm not so sure. I want to know your thoughts. What do you think could have happened here, and have you ever seen anything like this before?
Nope.
In many different cultures, mirrors, mainly the old ones, are shrouded in mystery and superstition. Their construction methods in the old days involved mixing certain metals with mercury. Now, because alchemists always thought of mercury as a mysterious substance full of magical properties, it was always believed that old mirrors could somehow open a gateway to the spirit world. And it was also believed that they could entrap souls and serve as portals to the other side of the spirit realm. Now, all of this was just a bad time story. If it weren't for this next video that I'm about to show you guys. It was recorded by Caitlin late one night, a few days later after she had just bought a very old mirror from an antique shop. This is what she caught on camera.
Oh, wow.
Wait, did you hear that?
Sounded like a door opened?
She was supposed to be all alone, and all of a sudden, she hears the creaking sound of a door moving by its own. A bit freaked out and confused, she uploads the video to the internet. The next day, she goes on a trip out of town with her friends, and they all appear to have a really good time. However, that same night, she goes back home pretty tired and decides to go straight to bed, when all of a sudden, this happens.
Okay, I swear I heard something. There's something out here. There's something out here.
What?
It sounded like it was coming from the garbage.
Did you see it?
What appears to be some sort of shadow figure can be seen lurking in her staircase. Whatever this thing is, it moves pretty quickly once it notices that she saw it. Now completely freaked out, Caitlin begins asking herself if the old mirror that she had bought had something to do with this.
So this is an old mirror that I upcycled, and I swear that sometimes you can see stuff in the background of the mirror that isn't actually there in real life. So I'm just gonna do a couple back and forths, but I'm curious to see if anyone sees anything that maybe I didn't catch. Here we go. Here's the mirror. Okay, so that's the background.
Oh, looks like somebody's sitting there.
Once again, my apartment.
In hopes of capturing
She's
some
so
sort
calm
of
about
anomaly
it.
or maybe paranormal activity on camera, Caitlin records the mirror and posts it to the internet. At first, it's as if she hasn't captured much, but it didn't take long before several internet users began noticing something odd about her video. When she's aiming her camera at her living room, there's no one there. But when she aims it at the mirror, we can clearly see what looks like a translucent figure in the background, watching her silently. After posting the video to social media, it caught the attention of a lot of people, and most internet users seem to agree that what looks like a girl can be seen sitting at her sofa.
Unless you like to be
For the
haunted.
next few days, Caitlin decides to ignore the presence of this entity and continues on posting normal vlog type videos. It was, however, until one certain night, when she decided to have a couple of friends over, that this happened.
We have locked ourselves on my porch. Because what did we see?
We were like walking outside of your hallway, and there was like a man just like standing at the door.
Okay, you can kind of see it in my mirror.
Freaking creepy.
That's the door, and we swore we saw just like
see that
a
shadow
of like a big male figure right over there.
A bit freaked out, a friend of hers states to have seen what appears to be a man standing next to the staircase. When she zooms in, we can kind of see what looks like a shadow figure. Creepy, isn't it? Well, at this point, there were many followers of hers leaving comments on how she had to perform some sort of cleanse on her apartment and how there was possibly something attached to the mirror that she had bought. Not taking this into consideration, she continues on posting normal vlog-type videos. And in one certain occasion, while staying at an Airbnb in California with a couple of friends, this happens. Check this out.
Can you come here?
Why?
Can you come?
This is the same chick?
I was just downstairs. Like stuff on the table is like moving by itself. Just like shit on the table is like moving by itself. I don't know. Just like that white book and stuff is like moving.
Whatever it was that was possibly attached to the old mirror that she had bought was now following Caitlin around. And unfortunately, there were no more updates regarding these mysterious encounters. Now, I'm not exactly sure if these videos are staged, or if it's possibly the real deal, but taking into consideration certain factors, such as the way that the shadow figure moved, the translucent figure in her sofa, pretty much legit, one could say that this is possibly one of the creepiest shadow figure encounters caught on camera. But I'm gonna leave it up to you. What do you think is going on here? Do you think that this is staged or fake? Or do you think that this is possible? And have you ever had a ghostly encounter yourself? For some mysterious reason, in the past few months, the topic of strange phenomena in the sky has been trending quite a lot.
Was happening?
There's been a huge amount of videos popping up all over the internet of mysterious things going on both in the sky and under the sea. However, in most cases, there is usually a very good explanation, and because in today's world, there are so many helicopters, planes, and drones flying all the time, the likelihood of actually capturing something strange and anomalous in the sky is very small.
Oh wow. What the heck? Wow. definitely one of those triangle ones.
But it's exactly what happened a couple of weeks ago with Ryan Rodriguez in Phoenix, Arizona.
What?
Isaac! Isaac!
It was a beautiful night and Ryan was outside when all of a sudden he noticed something odd in the sky, and this is what he captured on camera.
Isaac!
It's crazy.
Isaac!
Every time I go to Phoenix to visit my mom and sister, I look for UFOs because we're right near the mountain and you never see anything there. I've seen tons here.
He's gone?
So freaking weird.
Bro, what is that? Look at, you can see right through it. It's not a drone or anything.
There's an alien oops.
What appears to be two spheres of light can be seen above Phoenix, Arizona. Brian and his family, now completely baffled, continued on recording.
It's not making any noise or anything.
No, dude, they were so close to each other when I was coming home.
It's always around 8-ish, too, when I see mine.
What?
Did it just turn into one, or what?
Oh,
just blinked out.
Whatever these things are, they simply disappear into thin air. Strange, isn't it? But it gets even stranger. Just a couple of minutes after, Brian and his family were still outside, hoping to still see the two spheres of light maybe reappear at some point. But then, this happens.
Bro. Black Hawk helicopters.
Yep. I saw that down in Mexico, too. There was an orb thing flying around, and
Same
then
direction
a
that
helicopter
was
came and
flying.
chased it off.
From over there.
Which, why do they send helicopters? They're not even
Just
fast
moments
enough.
later, after these mysterious objects were seen, Ryan spots what looks like 3 black helicopters hovering by. A coincidence maybe? Or maybe not. Now, just to make things even weirder, for the next few days, Brian and his family kept a lookout for strange objects in the sky. And 2 days later, they spot something that they can't explain. Check this out.
I don't know if that's a plane, bro.
Oh, wow.
Yeah? It just looks like a light with like aura around it. These are planes right here.
Definitely not a plane.
Bro, what is that? Look at that, bro.
It's like a freaking portal or something. Definitely not SpaceX, even though that looks pretty trippy.
Where'd it go? Oh, disappeared, dude.
Now, what makes this even stranger is that several people appear to have seen some sort of strange phenomenon that same week. In this particular video coming in from Brazil, a fisherman by the name of Renan91 on TikTok caught a mysterious phenomenon under the ocean. Check this out.
Like, this stuff has been happening, and also shadows where there should be no shadows. It looks like the sun could be shining down there, but it's not.
Que luz é aquela, mano?
It's coming from above or below.
Olha lá a luz! Louca, mano. Ah, o sol morreu, foi pra lá, não foi pra cá, não.
Oh, yeah. There's the sun over there. It makes no sense.
Que luz é aquela ali?
Vai diminuindo.
Olha lá, no meio do nada. Doideira.
Whatever it was that Renan and his co-workers captured that day, it left them completely baffled. It would only make sense for this to be the sun reflecting off of the clouds with the sun high up in the sky, which is not what's going on here. In this video, we can clearly see that the sun is already setting. So, where is this light coming from? It's either coming from under the ocean or from something above. After being posted, several internet users suggested that this could be a submarine or some sort of underwater object. Others believe that this is an unknown phenomenon. but I'm gonna leave it up to you. What do you think is going on here? And have you noticed anything strange or odd up in the skies this week?
No.
Well, this is it for now, but we do have more videos. Don't forget to check them out. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications on for more videos like this. And if you want to send me unexplained videos and strange stories, thatimpossiblechannel@gmail.com. And I'll see you guys.
You guys make sure you like, subscribe. This guy is always he's always got epic videos. Sorry. My language was not languaging there for a minute. But anywho's, yeah, have you guys seen any weird things, like especially since the eclipse? I don't know, things in the sky as far as clouds, even the sun. People have been reporting seeing 2 suns. It's been super strange to me, like the clouds don't even look real anymore. And there's so many different ones all at once. But yeah, it's been pretty intense, pretty crazy. I don't know what else to do. When I was really getting into that Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, that was super awesome. Thanks, Adrian. Yeah, it's a really good book. It's been pretty interesting so far. I almost just kept reading it and instead of doing the video, but I really like watching these videos and sharing them with you. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out. I think I'm going to cut it short tonight. I guess my dog is sick, my little Rottweiler pup. And it's funny because her sister has been sick at the same time, so I don't know what's going on. The lady that sold them or gave them to us said that they were all vaccinated, but she's been not feeling well and throwing up the last couple nights, and then Vern said today she's like foaming at the mouth when you put her out. I'm just hoping it's not parvo. I got her 2 things of bone broth because, generally, when a dog's sick like that, it always works for me when I give it to a dog, but he said she's just laying out there in the yard. My son said that about 35 minutes ago. So hopefully everything's going to be okay. But yeah, thanks again, guys, for hanging out with me, tuning in. Man, I don't even have anything planned for next weekend, I don't think. Nope, nothing there. I was going to do security tonight, but they didn't need me. It would have been nice to have that extra money. Anyways, you guys, don't forget, we're all in this together. Together we can make the world a bit better. And together, my friends, we are Paradox Media, because without you, there is no us. And like I said before, thank you so much for hanging out with me and tuning in. And no, I don't think it's rabies. It sounds like parvo, Adrian. Until next time, night, love and light. I hope you guys have a full rest of your weekend. Happy Memorial Day. I hope you guys have fun with your family, eat some good barbecue, have some good times. I'm definitely not working tomorrow. And taking the day off. But thanks again, guys, for hanging out with me. Can't wait to do it again. Next weekend, I guess I'll just have to surprise you, as well as myself. Alright, see you guys later. Night, love and light. Take care of my use.